And I'm back talking once again about the September 23rd, 2017 alignment. This is a follow-up, and it's going to go a little bit of a different direction than I originally intended. But the original video was about the actual alignment, showing it from a solar system view, showing it from a terrestrial view, standing on Earth, and what it's going to look like on that day with the star alignments using computer apps. And then bringing up some things to just kind of inspire some thought. The feedback for that video has been just really incredible. I'll just say that. And also, it's been published now for about, I guess, 9-10 days and 3,329 views. That is awesome. That's more than I expected to get for this video. So I appreciate it. Some of you must be sharing this. It's getting around. There's other videos out there that are not getting this many views on this topic. So I must have done something right, I suppose. But at any rate, thank you very much. I want to mention a couple things here. Now, I think the first thing that I've learned over this past 10 days, getting phone calls, emails, and so forth from sometimes people I don't even know are sending me emails with some interesting comments and things, as well as the comments attached to the video. I encourage you, if you are interested in this topic, to go back to the original. I'll put a link here somewhere or at the end of the video, and certainly in the video description back to that first video. And check out the comments. All right, they're really insightful. There's some good ones. There were some that were kind of, well, not. I'll just say kind of they came across as being a bit full of hatred, telling me or other commenters that they're going to hell for what they said. It's just unproductive. So I did filter those out just because they kind of make me cringe and say, I don't know. It's just a waste of our time. So if you want to disagree, that's fine. I'll always want to share, any comment. But if you're going to be rude and start stating things as facts that are opinions and subjective, I'll filter those out just to make it a better experience for people that are actually trying to learn and gather new information. Okay. That said, there's some good stuff. So check out the comments. This gentleman really stood out to me. I pinned this one. And it's not so much that he said things that I have never heard before. Some of it is interesting. I didn't know all the constellations here and the Hebrew calendar alignment and so forth, but it's the way that he said it, and this is the thing about these comments, is people speak kind of from the heart. They're speaking personally about what they see and what they believe, and I think that's a great way to learn. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm scrolling slowly so you can, or you can pause the video and check it out. But this is not just the only one. There's several. I just happened to kind of connect with this one. I think it was great. And the input and the perspective from someone who is both an astronomer and a Christian is interesting. Okay, so this is just a good example of what's there in the comments for you. I want to share a couple other things to help you with your discovery of whether you believe this is a significant sign or not, and talk about maybe just my suggestion, a couple things to suggest if you are not a Bible scholar. What can you do to make sure that you are being objective, which is kind of my thing as a data analyst. Objectivity is king, right? So I'll touch on that real quick here. But before we go on, there's a very, very important thing that I've seen in remarkable clarity over the past week. And it has to do with the fact that there are ways to connect a lot of current events today with biblical prophecy. Okay, and that is interesting. It's amazing sometimes, and you can take it or leave it. I've found that people either believe it or they don't. The other comment on that is that I think it's important that we all remember that from the time Jesus ascended, and at that point in the Bible history, people have thought the time is nigh. They thought they saw all the signs. They thought that everything was there. It's kind of funny how that works, right? You can apply anything and make it fit the scenario that we see in the prophecy. So, keep that in mind. That said, this is an important point. I think that what I'm going to do here is take that Bible stuff and the prophecy and the end times discussion and put it aside for a second. And if you just look at nothing but current events, political, economic, religious, war and threats of wars, and all this kind of stuff, I have been really, it's been brought into clarity for me. I mean, or relief, I guess you could say, in a very clear way, that there's a lot of people who just feel like we're on the edge of a major change or event globally. All right, and I think that that is something that may or may not. I mean, you could say, when World War II got started, people thought it was the end of the world, and that was the big, war and all that kind of stuff and so forth. But there's something different, it seems to me, in just looking at history and looking at what's going on today. There's so many things that happen. Yeah, here I go, right? So many things that just seem to be uniquely aligned, tightly aligned with biblical prophecy about the end times, that you can't rule it out at this point. At the very least, you have to understand why people are coming to this conclusion, because we are on the edge of some kind of change. The entire human consciousness seems to be aware of this. There's a tension in the air. People just feel it. All right, and that's just my impression after this week of getting a bunch of feedback from creating a YouTube video on the topic of September 23rd, okay? So take it or leave it, but I wanted to kind of share that. I'll let you interpret that however you like, and but it's something you could use as you think about the topic. All right, next, a couple websites, and I'm going to skip through these pretty quick, but this guy, I thought this was just brilliant. This was shared with me a couple weeks ago, but I did want to point it out. If you're doing research in a September 23rd alignment, this gentleman, he's a missionary and evangelist, Robert Breaker. He does a really inspiring, I guess, an interesting job of pulling together timeline alignments that are ironic coincidences, to say the least. And then at best, he's absolutely right. So the thing is, I would encourage you, if you're interested in this topic and looking into it, to watch this little video and see what you think. Okay, it really did keep my interest, and there were some things in here I certainly didn't know. So a good one to watch. All right, next one. This one, different kind of a take, different approach. I'm not putting things that are similar. There's a bunch of them that are similar out there. But in this case, what this gentleman does, I believe he's English, based on his accent and so forth. But he takes the sixth seal, the Revelation 6, which I think is important. If you're going to understand Revelation 12 and this particular sign we've been talking about, then you go back to 6. I always get drawn back there. That's like the data hub, the beginning, pre-tribulation for all this stuff. And so he pulls together the continuity across the Bible. So you can see up here, he looks at Isaiah, Matthew, Ezekiel, and Joel, and so forth. He really knows the Bible well and pulls things together seamlessly in an interesting way. You may or may not agree with him, but it certainly is kind of nice to increase your confidence by watching this kind of video. And this is not one that'll put you to sleep. At least it wasn't for me. He does a really good job of keeping things moving. And let's see, that's the 12 gates. I'll put a link in the description below. And you can see, of course, the title of that video if you want to look it up that way. All right, next and last, the most logical timeline of the Revelation. This is great. I like this this gentleman here. I think he's in Australia. But I am a logical person, and when I read, and I encourage you to do this, read the book of Revelation, or at least starting at 6, pre-tribulation, right through 12 or through the end, if you is probably a good idea too. But read it, get your own impression, because to me it seemed very, very clear that we were dealing with a timeline, so this is what he lays out. I agree with this. Whether chapter 7 is tribulation or pre-tribulation, I think is debatable in some circles, but I like the way he laid it out. It's fine. His clouds indicate that the Bible is talking about something heaven-based, something that was seen in heaven, something going on in heaven, setting the stage. And so heaven comes up again in 14 and 15, and then, of course, eternity. Anyway, I think it's important to ask yourself this question, because there are a lot of people out there who say that this is a dream, it was not a timeline, it's not chronological. Okay, that's fine, but it sure seems chronological. So the question you need to ask yourself is, why would it not be chronological? Why would it not be? I mean, it seems to be written chronological. It is in that order, when you read the book, and so forth and so on. So it just kind of seems like it's chronological. But that doesn't mean that's the correct way to look at it. This gentleman has got a great video. I'll scroll down so you see his channel, and there's the name of the video. I'll link this in the description below. He does a really, really outstanding job. I also like in this one his description of Revelation 7, the moment of silence in heaven. Very cool, very good perspective on it. So I encourage you to check this one out if you're interested in this topic and it's on your mind these days. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much all I wanted to share. I'm not doing any kind of Bible reading or anything like that here. That's not my point. But this is Revelation 6, and so I'll put it up on the screen. This is where the 4 horsemen come in, and then just something that I'm going to tie into in subtle ways, and then in some ways maybe direct in future videos. I follow geological things that are going on with our climate, with volcanoes and earthquakes and so forth. And this is what we're talking about with the 6th seal in chapter 6. A great earthquake, and this is the only thing I'm going to talk about in the scripture. The sun became black as sackcloth. This is what people were talking about with the eclipse. It was not the eclipse. I wish I'd made a video prior to that one as well. But the moon looked like blood, and stars fell from heaven. Okay, the one thing I'm going to mention, just for context, unless if you study the Bible, you probably know this, but the word great. Never take that lightly, because you'll notice just in reading Revelation, not even the whole thing, you don't have to get very far, earthquakes are kind of a common theme, but they're just earthquakes and lightning and things like that. But when the word great and the context is the globe, earth, then you need to think great flood. Okay, this is big, in my humble opinion, as an analyst guy. So I think this is significant, and I encourage you to kind of take this particular seal very seriously and see what you think about it, and where you think has it happened, and so forth, and what does this mean. I'll tell you, it really looks like a description of one or more, probably more, like super volcanoes erupting and then stars falling from the sky. Could be a part of a super volcano eruption, but could also be something like asteroid shower and things like that. Some people will tell you that this means, they're talking about Israel. They're talking about, maybe that's true. But again, read it for yourself. It's all interesting. And I don't think there's a wrong way to look at it. Whichever way means the best, makes the most sense to you, is probably what you're meant to see in that particular text. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to get too deep into that. I just thought I'd share that little piece, almost as foreshadowing. The next thing I'm going to be doing is looking, like I did in a couple of previous videos, at some Earth events that are happening, and just showing them and talking about them and what's going on. Not necessarily tying them back to the Bible, okay? But anyway, I hope this was helpful, meaningful in some way. If it was, please let me know. Again, I look forward, I really do, to comments, suggestions, criticisms, differing opinions and so forth in the comments below. So please feel free to let me know. Remember, now, just so you know, I'm not monetized. I'm not getting a dime from YouTube. So if you like this and you're interested in stuff in the future, subscribe. If you like this and you feel like it'd probably be helpful to other people that are looking for information like you are, click the like button. That'll move it up in the search results when people search for this topic. But anyway, that said, have a great day, great evening, and may the research be with you.